Hello, my name is Matt and this is Pixel Burn, where I take a look at some of the more important, interesting or irritating things to have happened in gaming news this week. What little of it there has been. First up is this spiffy new trailer BioWare put out this week for Dragon Age Inquisition, aka Dragon Age 3. Although with a more active combat system on display here, I'm more inclined to call it Dragon Age Dark Witcher Assassins of King's Souls Prepare to Die Enhanced Inquisition Edition. Reckoning. Indeed, unlike the Neverwinter Nights-esque combat of Dragon Age Origins, combat in Dragon Age Inquisition appears to give players much more personal mobility during a big old ruckus. In the new trailer and in previous gameplay videos, the protagonist is seen rolling, strafing and diving in ways that immediately invite comparisons to Dark Souls or The Witcher 2. And if you think I'm being snarky about that, then more fool you, because I'm not. Okay, maybe just a teeny tiny little bit, but I really just couldn't resist mashing up all those game titles. Besides, I actually applaud BioWare for their willingness to mix things up a bit with a more dynamic combat system, especially if it makes fights with huge beasts like dragons more tense and epic. And anyway, it's not like the Dark Souls or Witcher series have some sort of monopoly on agile protagonists. If you're an RPG purist who chafes at the idea of more action-based mechanics, however, you may be pleased to know Dragon Age Inquisition is bringing back the tactical camera from Dragon Age Origins. Unlike Origin's camera, you'll be able to freely position it however you desire, whether you're playing on PC or console. So if you don't like going toe-to-toe with your enemies down on the ground like a true warrior does, you can always command your party from an overhead perspective, like some sort of bloody god or something. Speaking of party members, that's this ragtag bunch of plucky misfits, which includes some bloke called Cullen that fans keep raving on about for reasons only the maker knows. Personally, I don't understand what all the fuss is about. In my playthrough of Dragon Age Origins, he was just some mopey sod I met in a mage tower, trapped inside a force field being all sad and useless. Angry Cullen fans are of course welcome to send any and all complaints they may have to @AbilityTrain on Twitter. It's not all combat and dragon slang of course, as befitting a BioWare RPG there'll be plenty of meaningful conversations, snappy one-liners and wooing to do as well, with 2 characters so far officially confirmed as potential love conquests. No doubt an entire harem's worth will be confirmed by the time of Dragon Age Inquisition's release on October 7th in the US and October 10th in the UK and Europe. Continuing on the topic of trailers now, Polish indie developer Acid Wizard Games have released a new one for their upcoming horror game Darkwood, specifically to let the world know that the game is coming soon to Steam Early Access. Resembling the deformed offspring of a tryst between Alan Wake and Alien Breed, Darkwood is a top-down horror survival sim set in a dark, spooky and frankly bloody surreal forest somewhere in Eastern Europe during the Soviet era. Playing as a man who sometimes wears a rather fetching hat, you have to explore said forest and survive by crafting traps, barricades and other tools to protect against the hostile, nightmarish monstrosities lurking amidst the shadows of the trees. Like this bit from one of the pre-alpha trailers where you trap a green thing in a bear trap and then set it on fire. Another nice thing about Darkwood is that not everything in the game will necessarily try to kill you, although the non-hostile NPCs you can speak to aren't exactly what you'd call normal. This bloke, for example, looks like he could have auditioned for David Lynch's Fire Walk with Me. I first became aware of Darkwood last year, and even in its pre-alpha state I found myself very impressed by what I saw. The top-down perspective admittedly isn't a new one for horror games, particularly not indie ones, but the crafting mechanics seem very robust and flexible, and there's plenty of scope here for all sorts of emergent horror gameplay experiences, as well as countless YouTube videos of screeching bellends. Darkwood is expected to slither onto Steam Early Access at some unspecified date in the near future, probably when we least expect it, like all good scares. Speaking of nightmares, Xbox Entertainment Studios and marketing company Fuel Entertainment are out digging in the desert this week, looking for relics from one of the darkest periods of video game history for an upcoming documentary. Specifically, they're excavating a supposed landfill south of Alamogordo, New Mexico, where legend has it Atari buried millions of E.T. the Extraterrestrial Atari 2600 cartridges in September 1983. One of gaming's first ever official movie licensed tie-ins, E.T. the game is also popularly considered one of the absolute worst video games ever made. In fact, its dark reputation is so powerful it's often blamed for causing the great North American video game crash of 1983, which plunged the gaming industry into a 2-year recession and bankrupted Atari. The truth of the video game Crash of 83 is more complicated and boring than that, of course, but that hasn't diminished the unholy legend of E.T. the game. Digging will have already begun by the time you watch this, although there's no guarantee the documentary makers will find some lost motherlode of E.T. cartridges. It is only an urban legend after all, albeit a fascinating and compelling one. But then Atari did cover the site in a thick layer of concrete back in 1983, allegedly because a load of dead animals were found there. Make of that what you will. Incidentally, the supposed burial site is also close to the sites of the Trinity nuclear test of 1945 and the Roswell UFO incident of 1947. And if you connect all of these sites with big ominous red lines, you get a triangle, which is also the ancient Phoenician symbol Daleth, meaning doorway. In fact, the more I look into this story, the more I start to suspect the documentary crew may find more than they bargained for. Maybe some things should stay buried. On to more jovial topics now that don't fill you with unspeakable cosmic dread. Blizzard have announced that Blizzcon 2014 is officially a thing. It'll be taking place on November 7th and 8th at the Anaheim Convention Center in, surprise surprise, Anaheim, California, where every BlizzCon since 2005 has been held. Except in 2012, that is, for the simple reason that there wasn't a BlizzCon that year. Nothing else about the event has been confirmed at present, although attendees can likely expect similar tournaments and competitions to those of previous years. There's also been no news yet on any unique items for World of Warcraft, StarCraft 2, Diablo 3 or Hearthstone to be given out to convention attendees to sell on eBay afterwards. And so far there are no murmurs of any major announcements, though my money would probably be on StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void getting some sort of mention, particularly since there's no mention of it whatsoever anywhere in the press release. For those who live abroad and can't afford plane tickets to the US of A but would still like to see what's happening on the convention floor, you'll be able to buy a BlizzCon virtual ticket, giving you access to live streaming coverage of the whole event. It won't be quite the same thing, of course, as being there in person, although for some people that could be considered a blessing. If you do attend, then for God's sake use the shower in your hotel room, pack more than 2 days worth of clean clothes, and don't molest or photograph the cosplayers or indeed anyone else there without their consent. And especially don't charge around the place like a blind fucking elephant on a stampede on your way to some merchandise stall or a free bucket of fucking Pocky, almost knocking people over and then not even having the decency to fucking apologise. Why yes, that did happen to me at EGX one year. And yes, I am still pissed off about it, thank you very much. And finally, in an announcement from Hideo Kojima this week, it was revealed that previously platform-exclusive missions in Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes will be available for everybody to play from May the 1st. If you're an Xbox owner, you'll be able to enjoy the previously Sony-only Deja Vu mission, in which you play as Metal Gear Solid 1 era Solid Snake. And similarly, if you're a Sony person, you can jump into the shoes of Raiden in the previously Microsoft-only exclusive Jamais Vu mission. So for Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes fans of all platforms and persuasions, that's, let's see, an extra 5 minutes worth of content maybe? Completely for free? Very generous indeed. Frankly, I'm astounded Konami aren't charging $40 for it. That's all for this episode of Pixel Burn. If you liked it, please do let me know, and let your friends, your family and even your dog know as well. If you didn't like it, well, I won't lie, I'll be a bit disheartened, but in all honesty it probably doesn't matter now. Thanks to a team digging in the Alamogordo desert, we're probably all doomed, so you can go now and await the end.